Hello everyone, welcome to the In the Frame podcast. I'm Luke and today I'm on my own because we're bringing you a special episode, a clip show episode of the In the Frame podcast. We've gone back through our back catalogue of episodes and brought you the best bits all about diversity in the film industry. So sit back, enjoy, and if you want to know more about us, please go to osbd.org/in-the-frame. Subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on all the social media platforms. If you're listening to on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, welcome. Please enjoy and remember to leave a review or give us a follow. We really, really appreciate it. And so thank you very much. And talk to you guys soon. Enjoy.
But do you think in general, sort of, you know, young women coming from your background, would they get that kind of support to get into the media? Do you see things that are around that are helping to change that at all?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think particularly now as these sort of courses and being able to use, you know, the technology that we have access to is a lot more encouraging. You know, a lot more people are doing media. Media is a part of our lives, you know, self-promotion, the internet, all of these things are there. But I think when I was starting out, none of those things were there. And what was the biggest thing was BBC, you know, that was the end goal. If you were from an Asian background, the end goal was you will get a job at the BBC. You know, that's a really good job to have because it's a job for life. And I think in some ways that's a bit harder because what I wanted to do was not that. You know, I didn't want the job at the BBC. For different reasons, for lots of different reasons. I mean, dyslexia was something that held me back, which is why I always thought that's not for me. When I was growing up, that is. But I think today, I don't see a lot of female Asian directors / programmers, because I'm programming screen dances, but I don't see many women that are independent filmmakers. And so I hope that is being encouraged a lot more. But certainly within my networks, I don't see a lot of that. But I'm hoping that now with the access to technology and access to getting onto courses, things like that, that being an independent filmmaker is much easier than what it was when I was growing up. So it was certainly hard. You know, it was great. I was being encouraged, but then I think there's an air of disappointment that you've not got that one job that everybody feels you should be in, which is in broadcast. You know, any sort of channel, some sort of broadcast was the end goal. So yeah, I think I'm unsure if young people are battling with that at the moment, whether their sites are for broadcast. But I feel like the net is much wider now. And I hope like the second generation, third generation of Indian heritage families are now opening up their minds to sort of different platforms that media can be on, you know, and so it's not just broadcast TV, it can be anything from social media to video content to making short films and feature films. But yeah, I mean, I don't see many women, but you know, I hope that changes.
I think there is a general sense that things are changing, but you know, what do you think kind of needs to happen that we get a slightly fairer landscape in terms of the industry, particularly in terms of access points, you know, for young people from different backgrounds to feel like they can at least begin that journey to see where it takes them?
Yeah, it's a really important question, and I don't have a simple answer, and I am facing it right now on a project. You know, I'm really trying to construct a very diverse crew with heads of department from a diverse background in the broadest sense. And it's quite hard because unless you have already a good body of people, you know, you don't want the exception to prove the rule where, you know, one person gets through and then, but who's coming up behind them, you know, and whether it's, you know, Black or Asian DOP or, you know, whatever the sort of minority you're looking at, it's the volume is not there at the moment, so it's how to get the volume. And I think that is through the next phase of education and training and apprenticeships, and it's that's where it has to happen, because you just need volume. You need volume so that when you don't want to all be scrabbling around for the 2 or 3 super qualified BAME line producers, or whatever it is you're trying to bring sensitivity towards. It's a real struggle. But I have to say, it's like, as a work, my dad was a printer. I technically come from a working class background, and it wasn't easy to get in. I felt initially difficult to get in, and I know it's harder still. I'm a white guy, and I'm middle class now, so it's easier for me. But I guess the thing is as a person, don't let it define your experience. Even if it's not your fault structurally, take absolute responsibility for your kind of own. What can you do today about this, even if it's not fair, and even if it doesn't seem right? Is there someone you've met that you could follow up with? Is there a person you've admired, who you've seen has worked in this field, that you can, or projects that you've really liked, that you can sort of try to build a relationship with? And then beyond that, I think now I don't think the film and TV industry has been more aware of its its failings as it is now. And now is a good time to shout about your desire and your need to sort of get in this business, and don't be shy and timid about pointing out why it's time for you to be getting a chance. And again, be polite, respectful, but be noisy, And I genuinely think, when I talk to line producers, I've been interviewing line producers this last couple of weeks for a new HBO show set in Jamaica. We're gonna have no problem with local cast and crew, but to get the UK unit together, I ask every line producer, what are we gonna do to make sure that we're not just going to the same old? How are we gonna make sure we cast our net? And I think overall everyone says, well, we still, once you've met the 2 or 3 designers who are, of diverse background, what do you do then? You need the volume to come through. So that has to happen structurally. I know the BAFTA were hand wringing about this over this lockdown last year. And they have changed their whole voting approach, and they are making it more likely that the smaller projects that have had lower budgets, that are made from more diverse voices, are more likely to get considered for awards. And having awards is the thing that then gets you to be it's such a crude world we're in, where if you win something, you're great because someone else has said you're great, and then before you know it, the media latches on, and then before you know it, the money attaches. So I think getting more those awards programs need to be changed. Training needs to be ramped up. I mean, I don't know if you remember as well, Pip, but when I worked for Screen West Midlands, I hadn't realised for a while, until we did realise, that even though our doors were wide open to the sort of, which, I mean, Birmingham is a very diverse culture, but we weren't getting a lot of applications from the Black and Asian communities. And that was because we were just perceived as this white organisation that only wants applications from white people, which just couldn't have been further from the truth. But actually, how do you then communicate the fact that you're, culturally you're open to a more diverse slate? And so we did try to make projects that were the road to Guantanamo, about the Tipton 3, and then One Day, Penny Wilcox, grime musical involving a lot of local community. You try to send the right signals, but even then, you just got to make sure you're not being culturally biased. And I think a lot of producers and people I know are going through training with BFI's diversity unit and trying to make sure you're not doing unconscious bias, I guess, is a thing. You just have to watch yourself.
Do you think it is better now in terms of more accessibility for people to actually get into the industry, or do you think it's stagnating?
I think it's better in that people are much more aware of the choices that they make. I remember having conversations with people at one of the companies that I was working with about, how and where we chose to look for people that might, apply for a job, or, where we might look for candidates. And I remember at that particular time, somebody turning around and saying to me, well, I thought we'd just choose the best person for the job. And I said, yes, but it depends where you're looking for the people that come to do the interview before you choose who's the best person for the job. If it's, all the sons and daughters of people that work in the company that are kind of want to get into the industry, that's a very small pool of talent. But if we're advertising it in different places, in different parts of the country, spreading your net wider, then that will make a real difference to who comes in. I think we need a real mix of experience.
Yeah.
And I think, going back to my own experience of, people like us don't work in TV. I remember at the time I was growing up on Merseyside, Brookside was on TV, and Boys from the Blackstuff had just been on TV. And I remember looking at those two things and deciding that my dad must be completely wrong, because if there was nobody like me working in TV, then how did those two programs get made? I think there is a big thing about, if you can see it, you can be it. Yeah. And I think we do need to we need to think about experiences more widely, be open to different kinds of ideas and different kinds of stories. I think it's really interesting that in one country where a film body, a film council for that country, decided that they were going to give their funding equally to male directors and female directors. What was really interesting, there was that in the following years when those films were made, the films from female directors were getting more awards elsewhere, because they were telling stories that nobody had seen before and that felt different and new and unusual. They were standing out in the market in a different way. But that took people to make a difference, to say, actually, we're going to treat this in a different way. We're going to look at doing this in a different way. I think now there are many more training opportunities and schemes that look for people from a diverse range of backgrounds. And then there's awareness of that in a way that there hasn't been before. I think the industry does change very, very slowly, but I think it is starting to happen. Thank God, not before time.
If you could go back and say something to your, emerging self in those first years, as you're beginning to kind of see where you're going, think what you're doing, is there anything that you can kind of look on now with the experience that you have, so far, to say back to yourself, perhaps to help you at that point, that might be useful to our viewers?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things I would say to my younger self, and I'm talking to the 13, 14, 15-year-old who liked film, that hold on to your uniqueness, because at that age it was not an easy time to grow up, in a town like Blackburn, and so you do everything you can to kind of integrate, but also fit in to a certain extent, so some of your uniqueness, which back then would have been A, I'm Indian, B, I'm a girl, I'm a female, C, I'm interested in all these different things. I'm very, very sporty. For some reason, I'm very, very sporty. Cycled everywhere in Blackburn, which is probably why I cycle now. You've got amazingly unique pot of amazing elements there that make you Sima. And so I would, if I was to go back in that time, I probably don't, not just from 14, I would say up until you're 18, 20, 21, all of those years where you still, a bit not confused about your identity, but kind of a bit challenged by it, because you feel different, you think you're different. I would say, no, embrace your uniqueness, because that's what will get you where you're going to be. And I think particularly, if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have done the work that I now do with disabilities. If I look back on the last 6 years, most of the screen dance work has been all about working with learning disabled dancers or disabled arts or dance. And it's because I have, I guess, that insight, and for me, I'm incredibly inspired and passionate about making sure that I profile uniqueness in some way, and we're all unique, but I certainly would want to have told myself that when I was younger. Yeah,
I was going to say that there's something about the other side of the camera as well, isn't there? There's the stuff that's behind, but I think to inspire the next generation of young people who perhaps don't necessarily think this is a career they can go into. And I think it's great that, you know, the show that you did, Industry, you know, on the BBC, I mean, fantastic young black actor that's in the, yeah, you know, and I think it's just really important that we're putting that diversity on screen as well, and we're picking stories that are from those, you know, kind of diverse voices and angles of society that perhaps have not been looked at. I mean, I know Debbie, whose podcast comes out today, actually, you know, did 2 of Sir Steve McQueen's Small Axe projects as line producer, and I think, you know, I think that's another really important part of it, isn't it? That it's the stories that are being told, as well as all of the things you've talked about in terms of opening the doors and encouraging people into the industry.
Exactly, and that was, I mean, one of the things that attracted me to Industry was its the diversity. I mean, on the page, you know, this was not going to be a load of white bankers. Nothing wrong with that, but you know, as a guy growing up in Tottenham, for me, my world was very diverse, and that's where I felt more comfortable, more than this kind of you know, Merchant Ivory world of you know, period drama. So nothing against them either, because I love them, but I just want to see more diverse voices. And if you look at my slate as a producer, it is very diverse, and that's the way I am looking for. You know, the next Steve McQueen and or the next Derek Jarman, if you like, you know, next gay artistic, whatever it is. I think the more interesting voices are on the margins, and that's where I'm looking. So
brilliant.
But I just think, you know, when I just worked something out about 4 years ago, Life Isn't Fair, and while we're all hoping that everyone will get their act together to make things better and more systematically better for everybody, you as an individual have got to just think you've got a hand to play, you've got your unique talent, and it's like, how can you, you know, just, you know, get up and go out every day and just go, I've got something to offer here, and not let all that rubbish get in your head too much, which is not to say it doesn't exist, because it is unfair. Just take as much responsibility as you can for your own journey, really, and get a lot of help along the way. We all need, I mean, I wouldn't be here without masses of help. I've done this thing recently myself, is a list of mentors, and a list of, like, a tribe of mentors idea, where you've got people that you know are generally on your side, who generally like what you do, who probably would be quite happy to see you advance, as opposed to people who might be quite happy to see you fail. And just think, okay, how can I use them really well to get an intro to someone, just to send my CV, or get maybe a friend of yours just got their first gig. Okay, is there anything in there that you might be able to kindly ask them to help you with? Even if it's like, look at your CV and what do you think? Would this get me through the door? That sort of thing. I do that myself now.
So Bhulla, I know you've made several short films relating to disability. What was the impetus for that for you?
The reason I've made several films and explored topics around disabilities is largely comes from the fact that my mum is deaf. So I've always been around the deaf community and deaf culture, and it doesn't seem like anything out of the norm for me. And at one point, I was seeing lots of in content around the deaf community. I wasn't seeing enough of the positive side of it, because it's a vibrant community, lots of laughs. It has its own ways, nuances. Wouldn't see much of that, and I wanted to show that, and I still do want to show all that for Deaf Awareness Week. I wanted to do something. I had some time, and I felt like I want to do something positive that doesn't treat the deaf community as a disability or a community that needs help, because it's not to be treated like that.
I mean, obviously that's specific around deafness and stuff, and you obviously had a personal experience of that. As somebody who comes from an underrepresented, shall we say, community, the kind of South Asian community, in terms of perhaps the wider film and TV industry, how important is it to you that the industry is grappling with and dealing with the idea that we need to be much more open to people who are coming from diverse backgrounds, and making sure there are places for them to be included, within the industry?
For me personally, I feel like I've had it good in the industry. I've been treated well. I can't pinpoint times where I felt like I've been discriminated against. It's probably a result of the hard work and drive from South Asians that wanted to get into the industry and from the 80s and 90s, from a long time, from early on. It's a result of that. Yeah, we need more South Asians and Black people in the industry. The demand is there now because of lots of initiatives, lots of demand, but the supply isn't there. The industry is doing lots at the moment to be more inclusive, but you still might not be able to reach lots of people because the South Asian community traditionally doesn't encourage the creative industry as a career. And there's reasons behind that. Is because we're still early on in the generations here, and the first few generations is all about survival. They set up their lives so that their kids could have well-paying jobs. And at that time, well-paying jobs were accountants, doctors, and academic professions. We've got more luxuries thanks to the early generations. One of the luxuries is that you can start to explore the creative industry as a career option. People don't know what they don't know. So it helps when in the industry, if you see people it helps within the community to see people making a living from the industry. I'm hoping now from the young people in my family, my nieces and nephews, that they will grow up seeing the creative industry as another profession, a normal profession, something that they can explore, because there's somebody in their community that does it for a living.
You're passionate about other people discovering opportunities and ways to develop their talent and stuff. So tell us a bit about this amazing project Back In that you've been involved in for a few years.
Yeah, so Back In is I'm really passionate about that project. So Back In is I was about to say 6 month. It's now expanded to 9-month film development program that is produced by Punch Records and managed by myself. So in collaboration, we've developed this program that is serving an issue of diversity in the filmmaking community. So it's kind of a response to the less than 3%, I think the official figures are from BFI, less than 3% of the film industry around the world is made up by people of colour making film. And even that figure isn't people in lead roles, it's just involvement. So technically on a world scale, Black filmmakers are pretty much invisible. So we know that we can't solve the whole problem, but we're very much passionate in trying to do our little bit. And for me as well, going back to my early career, looking up, representation was a big thing. Representation is a reason why I almost kind of stopped doing what I was doing. Luckily, I never. But not having somebody to look up to who looks like you has such a massive impact on moving forward. Sometimes you only need to see one person that looks or is similar to a place where you've come from, and internally it's just like, oh yeah, it is possible. Or I feel comfortable and I don't feel silly moving in that direction. So Back In is not only designed to make sure that people of colour are equipped with the skills and the opportunities to get into the film industry, but also so we create this kind of community, this ecosystem where people can look up and be like, it's possible. I can see somebody that looks like me, somebody that may not come from a traditional film school background, or they've got relatives in film, or have received funding in the past, blah, blah, blah. But it's possible, and there's a support mechanism in place that is going to champion, us that are not necessarily represented and counted for in the industry, and it's going to help move us forward. And the process and the journey has been amazing. I mean, we've got partnership with BFI, who have been amazing, and they get involved so much in offering support and advice, and they help with the masterclass sessions as well. Yourself, Pip, you've offered so much advice, and people over the 3 years, we're about to launch the 4th year now, over the 3 years that we've been running it, are still talking about the very kind of real industry support that they've had from you as well. And that's what we're really focused on in Back In, is we don't want to do a checkbox exercise where it's, oh, you get a certificate at the end, or we send you along and, oh, now you're ready for the industry. It's very much a case of we try to put them in front of people in the industry who will give them real answers and real guidance, and we get them on real sets, and we commission them So they've got money to go out there and make films. And then when those films are made, we do a celebration at the end where we do a cinema screening. So we'll hire out a cinema, we'll invite down, you know, press. Well, we have press throughout anyway, so there's always magazines and newspaper reports. We have a real kind of showcase at the end, and have all of the people that have been involved to come and get involved and help move them along in their journey. And it's been amazing. I know I'm rambling on a little bit about it, I'm just so passionate about it. But the success stories has been crazy. We've got people that are now working with the BBC. We've got a person that is now a producer for various different companies, like some really big companies. Somebody from the first cohort, I think you worked with her as well, who recently did a spot with Lenny Henry that was on BBC. Somebody had a feature film which was, they were involved in a feature film that had cinematic distribution. One person is now making viral videos all over the world. Like, it's crazy that it's actually, it worked. It's not a case of, oh, we've done it and now they're just in a little silo doing films in their room. They're actually in the industry, working in the industry, and I'm so super proud of it.
Thank you everyone for watching this episode of the In the Frame podcast. As always, I have been Luke, and have a great time. See you guys next week. Goodbye.